Marcus Reynolds stepped out of his silver Bentley, adjusting his designer suit as the hot Phoenix sun beat down on him. At 45, he had everything money could buy: a successful real estate empire, a penthouse overlooking the city, and more zeros in his bank account than he could count. But something was missing, and he knew exactly what it was, or rather who it was. "Mr. Reynolds, we need your signature on these contracts," his assistant called out, running after him with a stack of papers. He was about to close another multi-million-dollar deal, but right now his mind was somewhere else entirely. He had just driven past an old neighborhood corner, and what he saw there stopped him in his tracks. A simple lemonade stand, just like the one from 28 years ago, and behind it stood a woman he would recognize anywhere, Sarah Jenkins. "Cancel my meetings for the afternoon," Marcus told his assistant, his eyes fixed on the modest stand across the street. His heart was pounding like it did when he was 17, sneaking out to meet Sarah after his parents had forbidden their relationship. Sarah hadn't noticed him yet. She was serving lemonade to a young couple, her smile just as bright as it was, all those years ago. Her hair had a few streaks of gray now, but she carried herself with the same grace that had captured his heart in high school. $5 for 2 glasses, he heard her say, and her voice brought back a flood of memories. Summer nights under the stars, promises whispered between stolen kisses, and the tearful goodbye when his parents sent him away to college on the other side of the country. Marcus watched as she wiped down her small table, the same way she used to clean up after their study sessions in her mother's kitchen. Back then, her mother had been the only adult who supported their relationship. His parents couldn't accept that their son was in love with a girl from the wrong side of the tracks, as they put it. "You need to focus on your future," his father had said. "The Reynolds name means something in this town." Those words had haunted him for years, especially after he gave in to the pressure and stopped answering Sarah's letters. Now here he was, the most successful real estate developer in Arizona, standing frozen on the sidewalk because the love of his life was selling lemonade just like she did when they first met. He remembered that day clearly. He was jogging past her house and she called out, "Best lemonade in Phoenix. Only 50 cents. Today's sign read Sarah's famous lemonade, still the best in Phoenix. She had kept her promise to her grandmother, who taught her the secret recipe. She had always said she would never give up on her grandmother's dream of having the best lemonade stand in town. A group of businessmen walked past Marcus, giving him strange looks. They probably wondered why Marcus Reynolds, whose face was often on the cover of business magazines, was staring at a lemonade stand like a teenager with a crush. "Is everything all right, Mr. Reynolds?" his assistant asked, concerned by his unusual behavior. Marcus loosened his tie. "Everything's perfect," he said, taking his first step toward the stand. "For the first time in 28 years, everything's absolutely perfect." Sarah was counting her day's earnings when she heard footsteps approaching. "Welcome to Sarah's famous lemon." The words died in her throat as she looked up and saw Marcus standing there. Time seemed to stop. The busy street, the passing cars, the chatter of pedestrians, everything faded away. It was just them standing on either side of a lemonade stand, just like that summer day when they were 17. "Your sign still needs work," Marcus said, softly, remembering how he used to tease her about her handwritten signs. "But I bet the lemonade is still the best in town." Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she reached for a paper cup. "Every day for 28 years, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Same recipe, same corner." "Every day?" Marcus asked, his throat tight with emotion. Sarah nodded, pouring the lemonade with the same careful attention she always had. "I promised someone once that I'd never give up on my dreams." She looked him in the eyes. "Any of them?" Marcus took the cup, their fingers brushing briefly. The lemonade tasted exactly as he remembered, sweet, tangy, and filled with promises of summer love. As he took another sip, he noticed something in Sarah's expression, a mix of hope, hurt, and something else that made his heart ache. "You've been waiting," he said. It wasn't a question. "Not waiting," Sarah corrected him, straightening the cups on her table. "Living, building my life, running my business." She gestured to the stand. "But yes, I kept our corner. Someone had to remember." A taxi honked nearby, bringing Marcus back to reality. He was supposed to be in a board meeting right now discussing the purchase of several blocks in this very neighborhood, blocks that included this corner. His assistant was still hovering nearby, probably calling to reschedule his appointments. The papers she held contained plans to tear down these old buildings and put up luxury condos. But looking at Sarah now, Marcus knew those plans would never see the light of day. "I remember everything," he said, placing a $100 bill on the counter. "The promises, the dreams, the love, and I'm done running from them." Sarah picked up the bill and held it out to him. "Your money's no good here, Marcus Reynolds. It never was." "Then let me pay another way," he said. "Let me make up for lost time. If you'll let me." Sarah's hands shook as she cleaned up her lemonade stand that evening. Marcus had stayed for over an hour, both of them talking about everything and nothing, just like they used to. He'd left only when his phone wouldn't stop ringing with urgent business calls, but not before asking to see her again. "I own a small diner now," she had told him. "Nothing fancy like your restaurants, but it pays the bills. The lemonade stand is more of a tradition these days." Back at her modest diner, Sarah's place, she couldn't focus on the evening routine. Her mind kept drifting back to Marcus, to the way he looked at her like no time had passed at all. But time had passed, 28 years of it. "Mom, you're wiping the same spot over and over," her daughter Lisa said, coming out of the kitchen. At 26, Lisa was the spitting image of Sarah at that age, with the same determined spirit that got Sarah through the hardest times. "You won't believe who I saw today," Sarah said, finally putting down the cleaning cloth. She told Lisa about Marcus, watching her daughter's eyes grow wide with recognition. "Wait, the Marcus? The one from all your stories? The one who broke your heart and became some big-shot millionaire?" Lisa's protective instinct flared up immediately. "What did he want?" Sarah sighed, remembering the look in Marcus's eyes when he'd said he wanted to make up for lost time. "He said he never stopped thinking about me, and you believe him." Lisa crossed her arms, looking so much like her grandmother that it made Sarah's heart ache. "After what his family did to you?" The memories came flooding back. Marcus's parents had done more than just send him away. They'd made sure Sarah's mother lost her job at their company. They'd used their influence to block Sarah's college scholarship. They'd tried their best to break her spirit. "That was his parents, not him," Sarah said softly, but even she heard the doubt in her voice. The bell above the diner door chimed, and both women turned to see an elegant older woman walking in. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. It was Eleanor. "Reynolds, Marcus's mother. Still serving food to the common folk, I see," Eleanor said, looking around the diner with barely concealed disdain. She'd aged, but her posture still screamed old money and power. "I heard my son paid you a visit today." Lisa stepped forward protectively, but Sarah placed a gentle hand on her arm. "Mrs. Reynolds, after 28 years, you still can't let go?" Eleanor's perfectly painted lips curved into a cold smile. "Oh, I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here to make you an offer." She pulled out a checkbook from her designer purse. "Name your price." "Excuse me?" Sarah's voice was steady despite the anger building inside her. "For the diner, the lemonade stand, this whole block actually. Marcus doesn't know I'm here, of course, but I know my son. He's always had a weakness for you. I won't let him throw away everything we've built because of some misplaced nostalgia," Lisa gasped. But Sarah just laughed. It was a real laugh, one that made Eleanor step back in surprise. "You haven't changed at all, have you?" Sarah shook her head. "Still thinking everything has a price, still trying to control your son's life. Don't be foolish," Eleanor snapped. "You're not 17 anymore. Be practical. Marcus runs in different circles now. He has responsibilities, a reputation to maintain." "Get out of my diner," Sarah said quietly. "Your money couldn't buy me then, and it can't buy me now." Eleanor's face hardened. "You'll regret this. Marcus may be having a midlife crisis, but he'll come to his senses. He always does." After Eleanor left, Lisa hugged her mother tight. "I'm so proud of you, Mom. But she's right about one thing. You're not 17 anymore. Are you sure you want to go through all this again?" Sarah looked around her diner, at the photos on the walls showing 28 years of memories. Her wedding photo with Lisa's father, who'd been a good man but had died too young. Pictures of Lisa growing up. The newspaper clipping from when she'd finally opened the diner. You know what your grandmother used to say? Sarah smiled at her daughter. She said true love is like her lemonade recipe. The ingredients don't change, they just get better with time. The next morning, Sarah found a bouquet of yellow roses waiting at her lemonade stand. The card read, "I heard about my mother's visit. I'm so sorry. Some things never change, like her stubbornness or how brave you are or how much I regret letting them come between us. Have dinner with me tonight?" Sarah held the card to her chest, feeling 17 and 45 all at once. The morning sun was rising over Phoenix, painting the sky in shades of hope, and for the first time in years, Sarah let herself believe in second chances. The Italian restaurant Marcus chose for their dinner was exactly the kind of place Sarah had expected. Elegant, expensive, and completely out of her comfort zone. She smoothed down her simple blue dress, one Lisa had insisted she buy for special occasions, and tried not to feel intimidated by the valet parking and crystal chandeliers. "You look beautiful," Marcus said, meeting her at the entrance. He was still in his business suit, but he'd loosened his tie and rolled up his sleeves, looking more like the boy she remembered. "This place is too much, Marcus," Sarah said honestly. "I would have been happy with a burger at my diner." Marcus's face fell. "Slightly. I wanted to impress you. Old habits die hard, I guess." He hesitated, then smiled. "Want to get out of here?" 20 minutes later, they were sitting in a booth at Sarah's diner, sharing fries and memories. Lisa was working the evening shift, keeping a watchful eye on them while pretending not to. "Remember when we used to share a milkshake at Old Joe's?" "Diner?" Marcus asked, dipping a fry in ketchup. "2 straws, 1 shake, and your grandmother pretending not to notice when we stayed past closing time." Sarah smiled, the memory bittersweet. "Grandma loved you. Even after everything happened, she never said a bad word about you. She just said some people need more time to find their way back home." "She was right," Marcus said softly. "I've been lost for a long time, Sarah, building my empire, making my millions, but feeling empty inside. Every time I achieved something, I wanted to tell you first. Every time I saw a lemonade stand, I'd stop, hoping it would be you. Why didn't you ever come back?" Sarah asked the question that had haunted her for 28 years. "After college, after you made your own money, after you didn't need their approval anymore?" Marcus stared into his coffee cup, shame written across his face. "I was a coward. By the time I had the courage to stand up to my parents, I heard you were married. I thought I'd lost my chance forever." "Tom was a good man," Sarah said quietly. "He loved me and Lisa with all his heart. When he died 5 years ago, he made me promise to be happy again someday." Lisa approached their table, coffee pot in hand. Her face was carefully neutral as she refilled their cups. "Can I get you anything else?" "Your mother's famous apple pie," Marcus said, smiling at her. "If it's half as good as her lemonade, it must be amazing." "It's better," Lisa said, a tiny smile cracking her serious expression. "Mum's been perfecting the recipe since before I was born." After Lisa walked away, Marcus leaned forward. "She doesn't like me much, does she?" "She's protective," Sarah explained. "She grew up hearing stories about young love and heartbreak. She's afraid history will repeat itself." "I'm not that scared teenager anymore," Marcus said firmly. "I've spent 28 years building an empire, but what's the point of having all this success if I can't share it with the person who believed in me first?" The diner's bell chimed and they both looked up to see Richard Reynolds, Marcus's father, walking in. He looked older than Sarah remembered, but his eyes were just as cold. "So it's true," Richard said, looking between them. "Eleanor said you were making a fool of yourself, but I had to see it with my own eyes." Marcus stood up, his face hardening. "Father, this is neither the time nor the place." "On the contrary," Richard snapped. "This is exactly the time and place. Do you know what's at stake? The Reynolds Group is about to merge with Sterling Industries. Do you think they'll want to do business with a man who's running around with—" He gestured dismissively at Sarah. "With what?" Sarah stood up too, her voice steady. "A diner owner. A woman who worked hard and raised her daughter alone. Someone who never needed Daddy's money to be happy." The diner had gone quiet, all eyes on their table. Lisa had moved closer, ready to intervene if needed. "You're just like your mother," Richard spat out. "Always thinking love conquers all. Well, let me tell you something. Love doesn't pay the bills. Love doesn't build empires. Love built this place, Sarah interrupted, gesturing around her diner. Love kept me going when my husband died. Love made me strong enough to raise a daughter who knows her worth. What did your kind of love build, Mr. Reynolds? A son who had to hide his feelings, a family that measures everything in dollars. Marcus reached for Sarah's hand, holding it tight. The merger can wait, Father, or it can happen without me. I'm done letting you and Mother control my life. Richard's face turned red. You're making a mistake, a huge mistake. No, Marcus said quietly. My only mistake was listening to you 28 years ago. He turned to Sarah. I'm sorry our evening was interrupted. Again, Sarah squeezed his hand. Life's messy, always has been. The question is, are you ready for messy? Marcus looked at his father, then back at Sarah. In her eyes, he saw the same strength, the same love that had captured his heart when they were teenagers. I've been ready for 28 years. I just didn't know it until now. Richard stormed out, leaving behind a silence heavy with possibility. Lisa brought over 2 slices of apple pie, setting them down without a word, but with less hostility than before. Your father's going to cause trouble, Sarah said, picking up her fork. Marcus smiled, tasting the pie. Let him try. Some things are worth fighting for. And this pie? Definitely worth fighting for. Sarah laughed, and just like that, the tension broke. Outside, the Phoenix night was warm and full of stars, just like those summer nights when they were young and thought love was all they needed. Maybe they were right back then. Maybe they just needed 28 years to figure it out. Marcus sat in his office the next morning, staring at the stack of papers his secretary had just brought in. The headline on the business section of the Phoenix Tribune caught his eye. Reynolds-Sterling merger in jeopardy. Sources say CEO Marcus Reynolds having second thoughts. His father had worked fast. The story was already spinning out of control, with hints about his personal issues affecting his judgment. His phone hadn't stopped ringing since dawn. Your 9 o'clock is here, his secretary announced. Instead of the Sterling Industries executives he was expecting, Victoria Sterling herself walked in. At 38, she was known as the Ice Queen of Wall Street, and Marcus had been dodging her obvious personal interest in him for months. Marcus, darling, Victoria purred, settling into the chair across from his desk. I had the most interesting breakfast with your mother this morning. Marcus felt a headache coming on. Victoria, if this is about the merger, this is about us, she interrupted, leaning forward. Your mother thinks, and I agree, that a personal union would make our corporate union so much more meaningful. She reached across the desk to touch his hand. We'd be unstoppable together. Marcus pulled his hand away. There is no us, Victoria. There never will be. Because of some woman from your past? Victoria's voice turned cold. A nobody who runs a cheap diner. Really, Marcus, I expected better from you. Don't talk about Sarah. Like that, Marcus warned, standing up. You don't know her. I know enough, Victoria snapped. I know she'll destroy everything you've built. The board is already nervous. Your father showed them the articles about her husband's death, how he died with massive gambling debts that she's still paying off. Marcus froze. He hadn't known about Tom's debts. Sarah hadn't mentioned them. Victoria saw his reaction and pressed her advantage. Did she tell you she's about to lose the diner? That she's been behind on her loans for months? That's why she's selling lemonade on street corners, Marcus. She's desperate. Get out, Marcus said quietly. And tell my mother to stay out of my business. After Victoria left, Marcus made some calls. She was right. Sarah was in trouble. The bank was planning to foreclose on the diner in 60 days. The thought of Sarah struggling while he lived in luxury made him sick. He grabbed his keys and headed to the lemonade stand. But Sarah wasn't there. At the diner, Lisa was manning the counter alone. Mum's at the bank, Lisa said, her face worried. Again, they won't extend her loan. Why didn't she tell me? Marcus asked. Lisa's eyes flashed. Maybe because she's not after your money. Maybe because she's spent 28 years handling things on her own. Or maybe because every time she lets a Reynolds into her life, it ends in heartbreak. I can help, Marcus insisted. "I have the means." "That's not what she needs," Lisa cut him off. "She needs someone who sees her for who she is, not what she owns or owes. Dad made that mistake, thinking he could make her happy by betting everything on get-rich-quick schemes. He loved us, but his pride destroyed him." The diner's door opened and Sarah walked in, looking tired but determined. She stopped when she saw Marcus. "You heard," she said simply. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked. "Because I'm not 17 anymore," Sarah replied. "I don't need a white knight, Marcus. I need a partner who respects me enough to let me fight my own battles. Even if it means losing everything you've worked for." Sarah looked around her diner, at the photos on the walls, the regular customers who felt like family, the corner booth where she'd raised Lisa on homework and dreams. "I haven't lost everything," she said softly. "I still have my daughter, my dignity, and a damn good lemonade recipe." Marcus felt something shift inside him. This was the Sarah he'd fallen in love with. Proud, strong, unafraid of life's challenges. She didn't need his money. She needed his heart, his trust, his respect. "Have dinner with me tonight," he said. "Not at some fancy restaurant. Here, in your diner. I want to hear everything about Tom, about the debts, about your dreams for this place." "No business talk?" Sarah asked cautiously. "No business talk," Marcus promised. "Just us, being honest with each other." Lisa watched them from behind the counter, her expression softening slightly. "I'll make Mom's special meatloaf," she offered, "the one that makes all the problems seem smaller." As Marcus headed back to his office, his phone buzzed with messages from Victoria, his parents, the board members. They all wanted answers about the merger, about his plans, about his future. For the first time in his career, Marcus didn't care about corporate games and power plays. He had 60 days to prove to Sarah that he was worth trusting again. 60 days to show her that love didn't mean losing herself. 60 days to remember who he was before money and status became his whole world. In his pocket, he still had the wrapper from the lemonade he'd bought yesterday. On it, Sarah had written the same thing she used to write on his napkins in high school. "Life is sweet enough when you're true to yourself." He smiled, thinking how it had taken him 28 years to understand what she meant. Now he just had to prove he'd finally learned the lesson. The emergency board meeting was called for 7 in the morning. Marcus sat at the head of the conference table, watching his father pace near the window, while Victoria Sterling examined her manicured nails with false casualness. The other board members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "The numbers don't lie," Richard Reynolds was saying, pointing to the charts projected on the wall. "Our stock has dropped 15% since the rumors about the merger started. The shareholders are nervous." "They're nervous because you're making them nervous," Marcus replied calmly. "You've been spreading those rumors yourself." Victoria stood up, smoothing her designer suit. "Marcus, darling, we're all trying to help you. This distraction with your old flame is affecting your judgment. The Sarah Jenkins situation, Ms. Sterling," Marcus cut her off, his voice sharp. "My personal life is not up for discussion in this boardroom." "It is when it affects the company," Richard snapped. "Do you know what I found out about her late husband's gambling debts? He borrowed money from Joey Martinez." A murmur went through the room. Everyone in Phoenix business circles knew Joey Martinez. He was the kind of loan shark that legitimate businessmen pretended didn't exist. "Sarah probably doesn't even know where the money came from," Marcus defended, but doubt crept into his voice. "Wake up, son." Richard slammed his hand on the table. "She's using you. Why else would she wait all these years, selling lemonade on that specific corner, right when we're planning to develop that area?" Marcus stood up slowly. "You think she knew about our development plans? That she's been running a 28-year con just to get to Reynolds' money?" "The board needs certainty," Victoria interjected smoothly. "The merger with Sterling Industries would secure our future. Think about your employees, Marcus. Their jobs, their families." The weight of responsibility pressed down on Marcus's shoulders. He had 5,000 employees counting on him. Could he risk their livelihoods for a second chance at love? His phone buzzed, a message from Sarah. "Sold out of lemonade early today. Some customers said they came because they read about us in the paper. Funny how life works sometimes." She had no idea about the corporate wars being waged over her little corner of Phoenix. While he sat in this luxury boardroom, she was probably wiping down tables at her diner, worrying about bank loans but still smiling at customers. "I need time," Marcus announced. "The merger decision can wait." "Time?" Victoria laughed coldly. "Sterling Industries won't wait forever, Marcus. Neither will I." "Then don't wait," Marcus replied. "If this merger only works with strings attached to my personal life, then maybe it's not the right deal for Reynolds Group." He walked out of the boardroom, ignoring his father's angry calls and Victoria's icy stare. His driver was waiting with the car, but Marcus waved him off. He needed to walk, to think. His feet carried him to Sarah's diner. Through the window, he could see her teaching Lisa how to make her famous apple pie. They were laughing, flower on, their faces looking like they didn't have a care in the world. Before he could go in, a sleek black car pulled up beside him. Joey Martinez stepped out, his expensive suit at odds with his dangerous demeanor. "Mr. Reynolds?" Martinez smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I heard you've been asking questions about Tom Jenkins's debts." Marcus straightened his spine. "Whatever. Business you had with Tom died with him?" "Business never dies, Mr. Reynolds. It just changes hands." Martinez pulled out a thick envelope. "Inside, you'll find proof that Sarah Jenkins knew exactly where her husband got the money. Her signature is on some very interesting documents." Marcus took the envelope but didn't open it. "How much?" "Excuse me?" "How much to clear Tom's debt?" "Completely? Whatever Sarah owes you, I'll pay it. With interest." Martinez chuckled. "Just like that? No questions asked?" "Just like that. You know, her husband said the same thing once. Whatever it takes to make Sarah happy. Look how that turned out." Marcus stepped closer to Martinez, his voice low. "I'm not Tom, and if you ever come near Sarah or her diner again, you'll learn exactly how different I am." Martinez held up his hands in mock surrender. "Relax, Mr. Reynolds. Bring me $500,000 by Friday and Tom Jenkins's debt disappears forever. Although," he glanced at the diner, "something tells me Sarah won't thank you for it." After Martinez left, Marcus stood on the sidewalk, holding the envelope and feeling the weight of impossible choices. Inside the diner, Sarah was now showing a young customer how to fold a paper napkin into a flower, just like she used to do for him in high school. His phone buzzed again. Messages from the board members, from Victoria, from his father. The Reynolds empire was teetering on the edge because he'd fallen in love again with a woman who sold lemonade and made apple pies. Marcus looked at the envelope in his hands. Sarah deserved to know the truth about Tom's debts, about Martinez, about everything, but would telling her the truth mean losing her? And if he paid off the debt without telling her, would he be any better than Tom, making decisions about her life without her consent? The sun was setting over Phoenix, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. From inside the diner, he could hear Sarah's laugh, the same laugh that had made him believe in forever when they were 17. Some things were worth risking everything for. The question was, what was he really risking, his company or his last chance at true love? Sarah was closing up the diner when Lisa burst through the door, waving a tablet in her hand. "Mum, you need to see this." The online article's headline made Sarah's heart skip. "Reynolds Group CEO spotted with known loan shark. Sources say connection to Sarah Jenkins' case." "They're dragging up Dad's past," Lisa said, her voice shaking. "How did they find out about Mr. Martinez?" Sarah sank into a booth, memories flooding back. The late-night visits from Martinez's men, the threatening phone calls, the way Tom would assure her everything was fine, even as their world crumbled around them. "I thought that nightmare was over," Sarah whispered. "After Tom died, Martinez just disappeared. And now he's talking to Marcus," Lisa pointed out. "Mom, what if Marcus is investigating us? What if he's working with his parents to dig up dirt?" Before Sarah could respond, Eleanor Reynolds walked into the diner. This time she wasn't alone. Victoria Sterling was with her. "We're closed," Lisa said firmly, but Eleanor ignored her. "Sarah, dear, we need to talk," Eleanor said, sliding into the booth across from her. "Woman to woman." Victoria remained standing, looking around the diner with poorly concealed disgust. This could have been handled more delicately. But time is running out. Sarah straightened her spine, remembering how she'd faced down these types of women for 28 years. "Say what you came to say." Eleanor pulled out a file folder. "Your husband borrowed $2 million from Joey Martinez. When he died, he left you with not only that debt but also a second mortgage on this diner that you've been struggling to pay." "That's none of your business," Sarah started, but Eleanor raised a hand. "It became our business when my son decided to throw away a billion-dollar merger over some misplaced nostalgia." She opened the folder. "Your signature is on these loan documents, Sarah. You knew where the money came from." Sarah's hands trembled as she looked at the papers. "I signed because Tom said it was a business loan. I never knew." "But you suspected," Victoria cut in smoothly. "Just like you suspect now that Marcus's renewed interest might have something to do with the Reynolds Group's plans to develop." "This neighborhood," Lisa stepped forward. "Get out, both of you." "We're trying to help," Eleanor said, her voice gentler now. "Marcus is willing to pay off Martinez. He's ready to risk everything. His company, his reputation, his future, for you." She leaned forward. "Are you willing to let him?" Sarah felt the weight of 28 years pressing down on her. She remembered Tom's desperate promises, his schemes to give her everything she deserved. She remembered how those dreams had died with him, leaving her with a mountain of debt and a teenage daughter to raise alone. "What do you want from me?" Sarah asked quietly. Victoria placed a contract on the table. "Sign over the diner and the corner lot to Sterling Industries. We'll clear all your debts, Martinez, the bank, everything. You and your daughter can start fresh somewhere else." "And Marcus?" Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "We'll focus on what's truly important," Eleanor assured her. "The merger will go through, the Reynolds name will be protected, and you," she smiled coldly, "will be generously compensated for your sacrifice." Lisa grabbed the contract. "You really think you can buy us off? That money means more to us than—" "Lisa," Sarah interrupted, "please give us a minute." After Lisa reluctantly stepped away, Sarah looked at the two polished women across from her. They represented everything she'd never been: wealthy, powerful, born into privilege. But they'd never known the joy of building something from nothing, of earning every customer's smile, of teaching a daughter that character matters more than cash. 28 years ago, Sarah said slowly, you thought you could control love with money. You sent Marcus away, blocked my scholarship, got my mother fired. You thought you'd won. Eleanor's smile faltered slightly. "But here's what you never understood," Sarah continued. "Every day I served lemonade on that corner. It wasn't about waiting for Marcus. It was about proving that you were wrong, that love isn't about mergers and acquisitions. It's about staying true to yourself." She stood up, smoothing her apron. "I don't need to see your contract. My answer is no." "Don't be a fool," Victoria snapped. "Martinez won't be as patient as we are." "Maybe not," Sarah agreed. "But I'd rather face him honestly than live with the shame of selling out everything I believe in." Eleanor gathered her papers. "Marcus will learn the truth about Tom's debts, about your lies. Do you think he'll still want you then?" Sarah's heart ached, but her voice was steady. "If Marcus loves me, he'll understand. And if he doesn't," she smiled sadly, "then maybe some love stories are better left in the past." After they left, Lisa hugged her mother tight. "What are we going to do?" Sarah looked around her diner, at the worn booths where she'd served countless meals, at the wall of photos telling her life story, at the dreams she'd built one customer at a time. "We're going to do what we've always done," she said, "face tomorrow with our heads held high. And maybe," she added softly, "it's time to tell Marcus the whole truth about Tom, before someone else does." Outside, the neon sign of Sarah's place flickered in the growing darkness. 28 years of memories lived in that light, some sweet, some bitter, all part of who she'd become. No amount of money could buy that history. No threat could make her deny it. She just hoped Marcus would understand why she'd kept Tom's secrets for so long, and why, despite everything, she still believed that love was worth more than all the mergers in the world. Marcus sat alone in his penthouse office, staring at the Phoenix skyline as the sun set. The envelope from Martinez lay open on his desk, its contents spread out like accusations. Sarah's signature was there, clear as day, on documents that proved she'd known about the illegal loans. His phone buzzed, another message from Victoria about the merger. Another from his father about the board meeting tomorrow. But the message that caught his eye was from Sarah. "We need to talk. Come to the diner after closing." The drive to Sarah's place felt longer than usual. When he arrived, the closed sign was up, but he could see Sarah sitting in their usual booth, 2 cups of coffee in front of her. "I had a visit from your mother today," Sarah said as he sat down. "And your friend, Victoria Sterling." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Whatever they said, they showed me the loan documents," Sarah interrupted. "The ones I'm sure Martinez showed you too." The silence between them felt heavy with unspoken words. Finally, Marcus asked, "Why didn't you tell me?" Sarah wrapped her hands around her coffee cup, drawing strength from its warmth. "Because I was ashamed. Not just of the debts, but of how blind I'd been. Tom was a dreamer, always chasing the next big thing. He wanted to give me everything you had, the fancy house, the expensive cars, the society life. So he borrowed from Martinez," Marcus said softly. Sarah nodded. "At first, I thought it was just business loans. Tom said he had investors. That everything was legal. By the time I realized the truth, he was in too deep. Martinez owned him. Owned us. And after Tom died, Martinez came to the funeral." Sarah's voice cracked slightly. "He stood right there, by Tom's grave, and told me not to worry about the debts. Said he'd be in touch when the time was right." Marcus leaned forward. "Sarah, I can help, I can pay off." "No," Sarah cut him off firmly. "That's exactly what Tom would have done. Throw money at the problem, pretend it fixes everything. But it doesn't fix anything, Marcus. It just covers up the truth." "What truth?" "That I was a coward," Sarah whispered. "I signed those papers because I was afraid of losing everything. I let Tom deal with Martinez because I didn't want to face reality. And now," she looked around her diner, "now I might lose it all anyway." Marcus reached across the table, taking her hand. "You're not going to lose anything. We'll fight this together." "Like we fought for our love 28 years ago." Sarah pulled her hand away. "You chose your family's approval then, your fortune, your future." "I was young and stupid," Marcus protested. "I'm not that person anymore." "Aren't you?" Sarah stood up, walking to the wall of photographs. "Your mother made it very clear. The merger with Sterling Industries is worth billions. Your board is against us. Victoria Sterling is waiting to be the perfect corporate wife. And here I am, with a failing diner and a loan shark's mark on my back." Marcus followed her, turning her to face him. "None of that matters." "It should." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "I'm not worth losing everything for, Marcus. I never was." "That's not true," Marcus said fiercely. 28 years ago, I made the biggest mistake of my life by letting you go. Everything I've built since then, the money, the success, the power, it all feels empty without you." "Pretty words," Sarah smiled sadly. "But words don't pay off Martinez. Words don't save my diner. Words don't change the fact that we're from different worlds." "Then let me prove it with actions," Marcus pleaded. "Tomorrow morning I'm calling a press conference. I'm going to tell everyone the truth about us, about the merger, about everything." "You can't," Sarah gasped. "Your company is just a company," Marcus finished. "I built it from nothing once. I can do it again if I have to, but I can't lose you again, Sarah. Not when I finally found my way back to you." The diner was quiet except for the soft hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic. Outside, the neon sign cast a warm glow through the windows, painting their faces in shades of hope and fear. "If you do this," Sarah said slowly, "there's no going back. Your parents will never forgive you. Victoria Sterling will become your enemy. The board might force you out." Marcus touched her face gently. 28 years ago, I chose what was safe, what was expected. This time, I'm choosing love." Sarah leaned into his touch, remembering all the dreams they'd shared as teenagers. "Martinez won't just go away. He'll come after both of us." "Let him try," Marcus said. "I've spent years building an empire. I know how to fight dirty if I have to." "That's what I'm afraid of," Sarah admitted. "I don't want you to become like them, using money and power to solve everything." Marcus looked into her eyes, seeing the same strength and honesty that had made him fall in love with her all those years ago. Then teach me your way. Show me how to build something real, something honest, like you did with this diner. Sarah glanced at the photo of Tom on the wall. I need you to understand something. First, if we do this, if we face everything together, we do it honestly. No secret payoffs, no corporate games, just us fighting our battles in the light. Even if it means losing everything? Sometimes. Sarah smiled, touching the lemonade stand. Photo from her teenage years. You have to lose everything to find what really matters. Marcus pulled her close, breathing in the familiar scent of coffee and apple pie that always surrounded her. Tomorrow morning, the world is going to change for both of us. Are you ready? Sarah thought about her daughter, her customers, her little corner of Phoenix that she'd built with love and determination. She thought about the 17-year-old girl who had believed love could conquer anything. As long as we face it together, she said, I'm ready for anything. Outside, the stars were coming out over Phoenix, witnesses to a love story 28 years in the making. Tomorrow would bring its own battles, but for now, in the quiet of Sarah's diner, two hearts that had never really forgotten each other found their way home again. The morning news channels were all carrying the same story. Marcus Reynolds, standing in front of Reynolds Group headquarters, making an announcement that sent shockwaves through the business world. The proposed merger with Sterling Industries will not be going forward, he said firmly into a forest of microphones. Furthermore, I am announcing a new direction for Reynolds Group, one that focuses on community development rather than corporate expansion. In her diner, Sarah watched the broadcast with Lisa and her morning regulars. Her hands trembled as she poured coffee for her customers, all of them glued to the small TV mounted on the wall. Is he crazy? One regular asked. That merger was worth billions. Some things are worth more than money, Joe, Sarah replied softly, her heart swelling with pride and fear. The bell above the door chimed, and Joey Martinez walked in, followed by two men in expensive suits. The diner went quiet. Nice speech your boyfriend's giving, Martinez said, sliding onto a bar stool. Very touching, very expensive. Lisa moved closer to her mother, but Sarah gestured for her to stay back. What do you want, Joey? Just breakfast, he smiled coldly. And to remind you that touching stories don't pay off debts. $2 million plus 8 years of interest. By my calculations, that's closer to $5 million now. The other customers began to leave quietly, throwing worried glances at Sarah. Only Joe, her oldest regular, stayed, pretending to read his newspaper while keeping an eye on the situation. I don't have that kind of money, Sarah said steadily. You know that. But your boyfriend does, Martinez countered. In fact, after that speech, I'm thinking maybe we should adjust the interest rate. High-profile cases are always more complicated. Before Sarah could respond, Eleanor Reynolds burst into the diner, her face flushed with anger. You, she pointed at Sarah, do you have any idea what you've done? The board is meeting right now to vote Marcus out. Martinez turned to Eleanor with interest. Mrs. Reynolds, what a pleasure. I don't believe we've met formally, though I did business with some of your husband's special investment projects a few years back. Eleanor froze, her face paling slightly. Sarah looked between them, suddenly understanding something. That's how you knew about Martinez, she said to Eleanor. Because Richard used him too. How dare you, Eleanor sputtered, but Martinez's laugh confirmed Sarah's suspicion. The respectable Reynolds family, Martinez mused. So quick to judge. To others, but not above getting their hands dirty when needed. Remember that development deal in 2019, Mrs. Reynolds? The one that needed some special persuasion for the holdout owners? The diner's door chimed again. This time it was Victoria Sterling, looking like she'd stepped off a magazine cover despite the early hour. Well, isn't this cozy? All of Marcus's problems in one room. Get out, Lisa said firmly. All of you, we're closed. Not until we settle this, Victoria declared. Marcus is throwing away everything for this. She gestured dismissively at Sarah. This waitress. The board meeting starts in an hour. He needs to come to his senses. Or what? Sarah asked quietly. You'll reveal my connection to Martinez, push me into bankruptcy, force me to sell. If necessary, Victoria nodded. Business is business. Sarah walked to the wall of photos. touching one that showed her and Tom on the day they opened the diner. "You know what I've learned in 28 years of running this place? That everything looks different in the light of day." She turned to face them all. Martinez with his threats, Eleanor with her schemes, Victoria with her ambitions. "So let's put it all in the light. Every dirty deal, every secret loan, every backroom arrangement. I'm sure the press would love to know how the great Reynolds family really built their empire." "You wouldn't dare," Eleanor gasped. "Try me," Sarah's voice was steel. "I've spent 28 years protecting other people's secrets. Maybe it's time to tell some truths." Martinez stood slowly. "Careful, Sarah. Truth can be dangerous." "So, can desperation," Sarah countered. "You want your money? Fine. But we do this legally, with proper terms and real paperwork. No more shadows." Victoria laughed sharply. "You really think you can play in our league? One word from me and Sterling Industries will bury Reynolds Group. Marcus will lose everything." "Maybe," said a new voice. Marcus stood in the doorway, his father, Richard beside him, but then again maybe not. Richard Reynolds stepped forward, looking older and tired. "It's over, Eleanor. The games, the schemes, all of it. I just finished talking to the board. I told them everything." "Richard, no," Eleanor whispered. "Everything," Richard repeated. "About Martinez, about the development deals, about how we've been operating for years. And you know what? They're not voting Marcus out. They're voting us out, all the old guard." Victoria's perfect composure cracked. "The merger was never real," Marcus finished. "Sterling Industries is under federal investigation. That's why you needed this deal so badly. You needed our clean reputation to hide your problems." Martinez stood up, straightening his jacket. "Well, this has been enlightening. But business is business. The debt will be paid," Marcus said. "But legally, with terms negotiated by our lawyers, unless you'd prefer to explain your loan practices to the FBI." The diner fell silent. Sarah felt the weight of 28 years lifting from her shoulders as the truth finally came into the light. Eleanor was the first to leave, her pride in tatters. Victoria followed, already on her phone, probably trying to salvage what she could. Martinez left last, pausing at the door. "You've changed the game," he said to Sarah. "Let's hope you're ready for what comes next." After they were gone, Richard turned to Sarah. "I owe you an apology. Many apologies, actually, to both of you." Marcus put his arm around Sarah. "It's not over. There will be fallout from this." "I know," Sarah smiled. "But this time we face it together, in the light." Joe, who had witnessed everything from behind his newspaper, finally spoke up. "Does this mean we can get breakfast now? All this drama is making me hungry." Sarah laughed, the sound breaking the tension. "Coming right up, Joe." "The usual?" "Actually," Marcus said, rolling up his sleeves, "let me help. I think it's time I learned how real people make an honest living." The morning sun streamed through the diner's windows, touching everything with new light. Outside, reporters were gathering, drawn by the drama at Reynolds Group. But inside Sarah's place, something simple and true was taking shape. A love story 28 years in the making, finally ready to begin its next chapter. The next few weeks brought more changes than Sarah had seen in all her 28 years of running the diner. The story of Marcus Reynolds choosing love over billions had captured the public's imagination. Every morning there was a line outside Sarah's place, people hoping to get a taste of her famous lemonade and maybe catch a glimpse of the couple that had become Phoenix's favorite romance. "Mom, we need more help," Lisa said one morning, watching the crowd outside. "We can't keep up with all these customers." Sarah wiped her forehead with her apron. She'd been up since dawn making pies and brewing coffee. "I know, honey, but with the bank loan still hanging over us—" "Actually," Marcus said, walking in through the back door in jeans and a simple shirt, "I think I have a solution for that." The past weeks had changed him too. After stepping down as CEO of Reynolds Group, he'd thrown himself into learning the diner business. Every morning he was there before sunrise, learning to make coffee, flip pancakes, and most importantly, perfect Sarah's lemonade recipe. "What solution?" Sarah asked cautiously. They'd agreed, no more quick fixes, no using his money to solve everything. Marcus grinned, pulling out some papers. I've been talking to the Small Business Association. There's a program for historic, local establishments. With your 28-year history, Sarah's place qualifies for a special loan, legal, documented, and with reasonable interest rates. Sarah looked at the papers. The terms were fair, nothing like Martinez's crushing demands. This would let us hire more staff, maybe even expand the kitchen. And, Marcus added, I found something interesting while going through the old Reynolds group files. That development plan my parents were pushing, it wasn't just about luxury condos. The original proposal included preserving historic local businesses as part of a community renewal project. Lisa leaned over to look at the plans Marcus pulled up on his tablet. So the diner could stay. Not just stay. Marcus smiled. It could become the heart of a revitalized neighborhood. Real development, not just gentrification. Sarah felt tears in her eyes. But your company is being reformed under new leadership, Marcus explained. Richard convinced the board to support a complete restructuring. No more backroom deals, no more Martinez-style arrangements. Clean, community-focused development. The bell above the door chimed and Richard Reynolds walked in. He looked different now, more relaxed in casual clothes, without the weight of corporate power on his shoulders. The paperwork's finished, he told Marcus. Eleanor agreed to the divorce settlement. She's moving to California to live with her sister. Sarah touched Marcus's arm. Are you okay? My mother made her choice, Marcus said quietly. She couldn't accept the changes, couldn't let go of her social status. But Dad is trying to learn, Richard finished. Speaking of which, he pulled out an apron from behind his back. I believe you promised to teach me how to make that famous apple pie? Sarah laughed in surprise. You want to learn to bake? Well, Richard looked around the busy diner. If I'm going to be part of this family, I should contribute something besides corporate advice. The word family hung in the air, making Sarah's heart skip. She and Marcus hadn't talked about marriage yet, both of them carrying scars from the past, both knowing they needed time to build something real. Just then, Joe, her faithful regular, called out from his usual spot. Hey Sarah, when are you going to let Marcus make the lemonade by himself? Some of us are dying to see if the student has mastered the teacher's secrets. Marcus raised his hands in mock surrender. Not yet. Sarah says my lemonade still needs work. The secret ingredient isn't in the recipe, Sarah teased. It's in the heart. As if on cue, a group of tourists came in, cameras ready. They'd read about the millionaire who gave up everything for his high school sweetheart and wanted pictures of the famous lemonade stand. Lisa handled them with practiced ease, but Sarah noticed her daughter watching Marcus with growing acceptance. The wall she'd built around her heart, protecting her mother from more pain, was slowly coming down. Later that afternoon, during a rare quiet moment, Marcus found Sarah in the kitchen, testing a new pie recipe. I got the final numbers from the lawyers, he said. After selling my shares and paying off the tax penalties, I'm not exactly broke, but I'm not a billionaire anymore either. Sarah dusted flour off her hands. Having regrets? Marcus pulled her close, not caring about the flour that got on his shirt. My only regret is that it took me 28 years to find my way back to you. Better late than never, Sarah smiled, reaching up to touch his face. Though I have to admit, I never thought I'd see Richard Reynolds learning to make pie crust. People can surprise you, Marcus said. Dad told me something interesting yesterday. He said watching you run this place, seeing how you treat everyone who comes through that door like family, made him understand what he'd been missing all these years. Through the kitchen window, they could see Richard attempting to crimp the edges of a pie while Lisa gave instructions, both of them laughing at his clumsy efforts. Your mother called, Sarah said softly. She wanted to know if you'd meet with her before she leaves for California. Marcus was quiet for a moment. What do you think I should do? I think, Sarah said carefully, that forgiveness isn't just about forgetting the past. Sometimes it's about making space for a different future. Marcus looked at her with wonder. How did you get so wise? 28 years of serving coffee and lemonade, Sarah laughed. You learn a lot about human nature in a place like this. The afternoon sun streamed through the kitchen window, catching the simple gold band Marcus had started wearing on a chain around his neck. His father's ring, given to him with a blessing to create a new kind of legacy. Outside, the line was forming. Again for the afternoon. Lemonade service. But this time Sarah wasn't serving alone. She had a family now, not the one she'd imagined as a teenager, but one built with love, forgiveness, and the courage to begin again. "Ready to try making the lemonade again?" she asked. "Marcus," he kissed her softly. "Only if you promise to keep teaching me until I get it right." "Oh," Sarah smiled against his lips, "I plan to keep teaching you for at least another 28 years. The kitchen filled with the scent of baking pies, the sound of laughter, and the promise of tomorrow. Sometimes, Sarah realized, the sweetest dreams aren't the ones you plan, but the ones that find you when you're busy making lemonade and keeping faith in love. 1 year later, the morning sun rose over a very different corner of Phoenix. Sarah's place had expanded, taking over the adjacent storefront. The famous lemonade stand had been rebuilt, a permanent structure now with a copper roof that gleamed in the sunlight. But the sign still read, "Sarah's Famous Lemonade," still the best in Phoenix. Sarah stood in front of the mirror in her small office, adjusting the simple white dress she'd chosen for today. Lisa appeared in the doorway, wearing a blue bridesmaid's dress and holding a bouquet of yellow roses. "Marcus is already at the park," Lisa smiled. "Dad would have loved this." Sarah touched the locket around her neck that held Tom's picture. They would have, especially the part about getting married at the lemonade stand where it all began. The past year had brought more changes than just the diner's expansion. Joey Martinez had been arrested in a federal sting operation, his loan shark empire crumbling under investigation. The evidence Richard Reynolds provided had helped put him away for a long time. Eleanor had returned from California for the wedding, changed by her time away. She'd written Marcus a long letter, finally acknowledging her mistakes and asking for a chance to be part of his life again, on his terms this time. Victoria Sterling had disappeared to Europe after her company's scandal. Broke, but not before sending Sarah an unexpected note. "You won. Not because you took him from me, but because you showed him who he really was." The community development project was transforming the neighborhood, with Sarah's place as its heart. Other small businesses were opening, bringing life back to the streets without pushing out the old residents. Marcus had found his true calling, working with local entrepreneurs to build something sustainable and real. "Ready, Mom?" Lisa asked, holding out a bouquet of wildflowers mixed with lemon blossoms. Sarah took one last look in the mirror. At 46, she wasn't the teenage girl who'd first fallen in love with Marcus Reynolds. Life had left its marks, laugh lines. Around her eyes, silver threads in her hair, and wisdom earned through years of hard work and heartache. But when she walked out to the park across from the diner, when she saw Marcus waiting under the arch decorated with lemons and roses, she felt 17 again. He'd insisted on wearing the same kind of simple suit he'd worn on their first date, not the expensive designer clothes of his corporate days. Richard stood beside his son as best man, his face beaming with pride. In the front row, Eleanor sat, quietly, a tentative smile on her face as she nodded to Sarah. The pews were filled with diner regulars, including Joe in his usual booth, which they'd moved outside for the occasion. As Sarah walked down the aisle on her brother's arm, she passed the old photos they'd set up on easels. Her and Marcus at 17, the lemonade stand through the years, Tom and baby Lisa, the diner's opening day, and newer ones. Marcus learning to make pies, Richard's first successful batch of lemonade, Lisa graduating from business school. When she reached Marcus, he took her hands in his, and the justice of the peace began the ceremony. But it was the personal vows they'd written that brought tears to everyone's eyes. 29. "Years ago," Marcus said, his voice strong and clear, "I made the mistake of thinking success meant walking away from love. I spent 28 years building an empire of glass and steel. But you built something far more precious, a home where everyone is welcome, where love is served daily along with coffee and lemonade." Sarah squeezed his hands, her own voice full of emotion. "For 28 years I kept our corner, not because I was waiting, but because I was becoming who I needed to be. strong enough to stand on my own, wise enough to forgive, and brave enough to love again. You didn't come back to rescue me. You came back to stand beside me." After the ceremony, the celebration moved to the diner. They'd closed it for the day, but Sarah still wore her apron over her wedding dress as she and Marcus served lemonade to their guests. "Finally got the recipe right," Marcus grinned, pouring glasses for the guests. "Almost," Sarah teased. "Still needs something." "Love?" Lisa chimed in. "According to Grandma's recipe book, that's the secret ingredient." Eleanor approached them hesitantly, holding 2 envelopes. "I know we agreed no wedding gifts, but—" She handed one envelope to Marcus and one to Lisa. "These are trust funds I set up years ago. Marcus's when he was born, and Lisa's right after Tom died." Lisa opened her envelope in surprise. "You've been watching out for us?" Eleanor dabbed at her eyes. "From a distance. I wasn't ready to admit I was wrong, but I couldn't stop caring either." Sarah touched her new mother-in-law's arm. "Maybe it's time to stop watching from a distance." The afternoon sun turned the lemonade golden in its glasses as the celebration continued. Richard led Eleanor onto the small dance floor they'd set up, both of them awkward, but trying. Lisa caught the bouquet, blushing as she glanced at the young chef they'd hired last spring. Later, as the party wound down, Sarah and Marcus slipped away to the lemonade stand. The evening light painted the sky in the same colors as that first summer day when a teenage boy stopped for a drink and found his heart's home instead. "Want to know a secret?" Sarah asked, leaning against him. "That very first day I added extra sugar to your lemonade. I thought you were cute and wanted you to come back." Marcus laughed, pulling her close. "Want to know another secret? I hated lemonade back then, but I kept coming back anyway. And now?" "Now," he kissed her softly, "I can't imagine life without it. Without you." The stars were coming out over Phoenix, witnesses to a love story that had taken 28 years to write, its first chapter. But as Sarah and Marcus shared a glass of lemonade at their old corner, they knew the best chapters were still to come. After all, the secret ingredient had always been there, in every glass of lemonade, every cup of coffee, every piece of pie. Love, served daily at Sarah's place, where second chances come with a side of wisdom, and happy endings are just new beginnings in disguise. Above them, the neon sign of Sarah's place glowed warmly in the gathering dusk, a beacon of hope for anyone who still believed in the power of love, the strength of forgiveness, and the sweet possibility of dreams that take the long way home.